Bump and Run with Bernie and Dahlby. Presented by Burrito Express, your local burrito joint. Now, here's Brett Bernheisel and Steve Dahlby.
All right. Well, our sign company came through again. It's unbelievable what they did this week. I mean, we've had these exotic signs the last couple of weeks. And this week, they have come up with the 8-ball. Show 8. We've made it to show 8, Dahlby, which is incredible. And I just want to count my blessings every day that we've made it this far. Well, and last week, people have asked me, when we started last week's show, why were you laughing at the beginning of the show? And then you made me laugh, and I looked like the idiot. Why were you laughing?
I was looking at the dog behind you and started laughing. The dog on the bicycle. But
I know what it is. But yeah, and everybody's like, why did you start laughing? And I just started laughing because you started laughing. And then when I've watched it, because I watched this thing like 55 times to just criticize myself every single time, that I was like embarrassed.
How does he pedal the bicycle?
I have two pugs and a puggle, and I'm watching one of them right now outside my window, and it's quite interesting. But I really don't know how they get on the bike to begin with. I think a human being has to put them on the bike and then go from there. I don't know, Schubert, to be honest with you. All right, well, Schubert joined in early this week. All right, let's just get right to it, Dahlby. What a day of golf! I'm gonna go on record in saying that was as enjoyable of a playoff as I've seen in maybe ever. It's 6 holes. Patty Ice. I like that name too, Patty Ice, because that is his name, because he doesn't show any emotion. And I was actually thinking to myself, if he was playing in a golf tournament and it was during a comedy show, the funniest person you've ever heard, do you think that Cantley would ever broke a smile or enjoyed any of it? Because I've never seen anybody that focused in my entire life. He shows zero, and I mean zero emotion.
Yeah, and I think there are golfers like that kind of go into a zone, but he certainly goes into a zone that most don't. It was a very concentrated effort, though, in the playoff by both. I think, and I don't know, there were, Bryson on the 14th hole decided to, I think he saw Cantley move a little bit and turned and said, "Patrick, will you stop moving?" I don't know, but there certainly wasn't much discussion between the two of them, not a lot of chit chat. And even at the end of the regulation, you saw the handshake. It was the quickest handshake, only it was quicker after the playoff. It was just boom, boom, done. No congratulations, no good shots, nothing like that, which both guys were very, very focused, but certainly maybe that had a little something to do with it.
So Cantley makes this bomb on 18. Well, he made bombs all day. I mean, it was great to watch. I didn't get to watch the entire thing. I had stuff going on, but when I turned it on 18, and Cantley made the 25-footer to get into the playoff, and then the stuff that you watched in the playoff with DeChambeau missing the same putt. I'm telling you, it was the same putt he missed the other day to shoot 59 that he missed in the playoff today, and he stood there on the green and he looked at it like, how does this not go to the right? Did he? And then he lipped out on the 17. Then he hits it in the water on the 3rd or 4th playoff hole, and then hits a wedge from 240. I'm lying, but 190 or 180 to 8-9 feet, and cans that to move it on. And then I think one of the best moments in the playoff, and I was rooting for Cantley, I'll be honest. The best moment in the playoff when they're on 17 and Bryson got up there and hit this wedge to, 6 feet, maybe 7 feet. I haven't looked at it officially. And then Cantley, who's not short, he's not a short hitter, has to hit 8-iron, and he hits this little feather cut 8-iron to about, 2.5 feet. And then Bryson knocks it in, and then Cantley knocks it in. I thought that was one of my favorite playoff holes I've ever seen, just because Bryson put all the heat on him, and then Cantley just jammed it up his ass there with that hit it to 2 feet.
Yeah, and it was the back and forth, and we've had some long playoffs, multiple hole playoffs this season, which has been fun. It's fun when a playoff goes 6 holes like today, or 7 holes. I think, was it 7 holes that Harris English won? Did he win on the 7th?
Yeah.
Or,
I think that's what it was,
and so
I think.
Yeah, so those are fun. But even going back to regulation, there still seems to be a little bit of short game. Now, Bryson, I looked at his stats. He had strokes gained. He was above the field for the week, but there was a chip shot he had on 17 in regulation, kind of fairly in the rough, but a fairly easy chip shot, kind of fluffed it, and let Cantley, hit it in the water and still tie the hole with bogeys. Bryson missed a bunch of putts to win. He had putts to win, like you say, he had the 6-footer, the 8-footer, but and Paul Azinger, who my wife has now said that when Paul Azinger is on, she's going to go to mute. But Paul Azinger, he said he's missing everything left except this one. He missed to the right. It was ridiculous. But I think, Bryson, there's still some short game stuff that's going on under pressure. And it started at the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines the last day, where he was thinning chip shots over the green and making big numbers on that last 9 when he had a chance to win. It seems that there's something going on. Now, technically, a guy like Bryson, you would think he's explored every short game technique that there is. So, but he's not hitting great short game shots all the time. And certainly the putter, and like I said, he shot 27 under for 4 days. Now, that golf course was soft and it was pretty easy, but he shot 27 under for 4 days. So he's making putts. He's doing good things. But there's something going on where under pressure, it's not quite there.
When you talk about easy, the first hole's drivable. I mean, and everybody in the field laid up today except for him. He went for it. So from a coaching standpoint, and I've never asked you this question, even outside of doing a show with you. Do you watch swings? Do you watch techniques of players when you're watching on TV and like analyze what they're doing into where if somebody ever came up to you and if hypothetically, if Bryson DeChambeau came up to you and said, "Hey, Steve, I want your help on chipping," do you look at stuff like that?
I look at everything, and I will look at today. Obviously, you're watching the playoff. Bryson tapped his driver 19 times his last drive on 18 in the playoff. He puts it up, he puts it down, he does all this, and he's tap, 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 tap. 19 times. I counted. I might have missed one because he does it kind of fast. But the thing about that I was saying to Amy and Matthew, my younger son Matthew, is Bryson, sometimes he says things that it just doesn't come out good. And I like Bryson. I really do. I think, as I've told you before, he's the mad scientist, but he's still this little kid. But he's like, sometimes he's that dumb, smart guy that says things that he just doesn't need to say. If he becomes a villain, if he becomes somebody that maybe the crowd wants to get after, they're going to start counting those taps. And it's going to drive him crazy because he does hear everything. Remember Sergio Garcia a few years ago with the Waggles? Uh-huh. He taps the club 19 times before he hits a shot on his drive on 18.
So it's kind of like Giannis from the Bucks. We talked about this, last week when you ripped me to shreds and got all pissed off at me. It's like Giannis shooting free throws. You were hot. No big deal. Everybody loved it. They love the hot side of you. They count how many dribbles that he does before he shoots a free throw. So you're right. If he becomes the villain, it's like today when somebody from the crowd, and I totally disagree with a fan yelling in somebody's backswing, whether it's somebody you hate, doesn't matter. It's not right. And in my opinion, that person should immediately be removed from the golf tournament, taken away or whatever, because I was thinking to myself, okay, so he's got to back off this shot because this circus clown over here yelled in his backswing. In my mind, if it was me, as I'm approaching to hit the shot, I'm thinking the same thing. It's going to happen again. And it didn't. And Bryson pulled it off a couple of times, which was, I gave him credit for that. I mean, because me as a player, or, and I'm a shitty amateur player, but I would always be thinking, oh, the same person's going to yell again and it's going to happen all over again.
Yeah, no. And then you would have to think, and obviously he hears stuff. He does. And he sees things.
Sure.
Because he plays at a level, and in his mind, he has to have every detail figured out. That's the mad scientist, right? But you've got to learn to also have that tunnel vision. And like you're talking about, the tunnel vision that you saw in Patrick Cantley today. But I just hope that doesn't happen. But, you asked, do I look at swings? I look at golf swings. I look at everybody's golf swing. That's my job. I look at golf swings. But for me to notice watching him for, an hour and a half today, that tap, 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 and that's, I don't know that he taps it the same amount every time. So if you're his coach, if you're Chris Como, you tapped it 16 times, then you tapped it 19 times. What are we doing here? So I hope that doesn't happen. I like Bryson DeChambeau. I do. I think he's good for the game, and I hope that he doesn't become the bad guy, but I'm just saying it could happen. And, you've got this little feud with Koepka. Bryson, I think Bryson, and this is just me, my opinion, I don't know him very well,
sure,
but he's always been nice to me. He says hello. He's very polite, respectful. Brooks Koepka, he's kind of a jackass. So, but it seems like people could kind of think, oh, Koepka's got it right here and Bryson's the bad guy. I just hope that doesn't happen.
Has DeChambeau, so him, definitely DeChambeau and Koepka aren't going to play together in the Ryder Cup. Does DeChambeau now not playing with Cantley, probably for sure in the Ryder Cup? Is there a point where, and this is stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway, is he playing 1-on-2 against the Europeans because nobody wants to play with the guy down the road? Is he becoming like, or do you put DeChambeau and Patrick Reed, who's 30th right now, he's going to the finals if he's healthy enough. Do you put those two together? And you put those two guys together and just be like, all right, everybody hates you. Not everybody hates DeChambeau, but people just like you. Do you put them together and just say, all right, just go beat the world?
Yeah, I think that, and I think Steve Stricker will do a good job of this. He's been a vice captain a couple times. He's been in Ryder Cups. I think you put the Ryder Cup above individual personalities. Now, you don't pair Bryson and Koepka together, but I think Stricker may have already had a chat with them about, hey, we need to get above this. But I think I would look at, there's got to be some personalities on that team, and we don't know the team yet, but there's personalities on that team that are going to be fine playing with whoever. To me, as far as Bryson hits it, you put him, and as straight as he drives it now, do you put a great wedge player with him? Do you put Kevin Kisner? Do you put Jordan Spieth? Do you put somebody that's a real good wedge player with him to take advantage of his length? That would be what I would think. I'd be looking more, and hopefully this is the case. But there's times, who was it? Hal Sutton, when he was the captain, he put Tiger and Phil together, and it was terrible. It was a terrible decision. They lost everything. But hopefully Strick can get the personalities away for a week and let's go play for country. And, when you talk about playing for country, this morning was a hard morning. When we're bringing back 13 men and women who have died serving our country. So, the 11 flew into Dover Air Force Base this morning in Delaware. Their ages 20 to 31, these 13 servicemen that protect our country. If they can do that, if they can sacrifice that, and put politics aside, whether you're on the right or whether you're on the left, today is a day to honor those those kids and to wish their families well. If they can serve our country, why the hell can't the Ryder Cup team put personality away and go win this damn thing?
Well said, my friend. I'm choked up right now, so just give me a second. Just on a second.
And Bernie, you don't know this, but my father, and I'm an only child, my father was in the Army for 22 years. He served in 2 wars. He was in the Korean War. That's where he met my mom. He was in the Vietnam War. He was in intelligence, and I've talked to him a little bit about what he thinks in Afghanistan, and we're not going to get political, but I've got his opinion. And growing up, if it wouldn't have been that I sort of could play golf, I probably would have been in the military. So when I say it was a tough morning today, that was tough to watch.
Yeah, it was. Great. You know what? We've as many years as we've either done live radio or podcasts or things like that. That is the first time that you've really ever opened up. And I know it's a golf podcast and people are listening, but that was well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's your
moment. No, and that's
where,
Ryder Cup, these guys, it's an honor to play in the Ryder Cup. So let's not worry about personalities and who likes who, especially today. That's the big thing. If we go back to golf, I'll go back to golf. I've spent some time. We've talked about Bryson a lot. I've spent a little bit of time with Patrick Cantlay, and you say he's kind of very stoic. Troy played. We were over at Riviera, and Troy played a practice round with Patrick Cantlay. I don't know, Tuesday of Riviera.
Sure.
The Genesis, and so it was interesting because he played for UCLA. I had 2 kids go to UCLA who ended up transferring, played for the same coach. So after a little while, I asked him a little bit about his experience at UCLA and how things went there. Obviously, they went better than the 2 kids that I had go over there for a year. But he was very cordial. He is. It took probably 6 or 7 holes before I kind of went up and talked to him. But when I did, very cordial, had some good conversation about things. And, I think he is a good guy. You talk about him. Does he ever smile? He had a big smile on he actually smiled, I think, after he made the putt to get into the playoff. There was a little smirk. And then he also, big smile after he won, obviously. And was kind of congratulating the crowd, clapping for the crowd. And that was kind of cool. So I was happy for him. Very, very talented player. Didn't play great, probably to his standards, some of this season, but he's in a great position now going into next week. He gets a little bit of a lead, right?
Yeah, it's his 5th win on tour, 3rd this year. I mean, and going back, and I'm piggybacking on you right now. I mean, his best friend died in his arms. His caddy, it was his best friend, died in his arms in a tragic accident years ago in California, and it ruined him. And he even said he's dedicating. He said this years ago, and I'm sure it's the same. He's dedicating, his golf career around his best friend who got hit by, I don't know if it was a drunk driver or just what, I don't know the whole story, and I'm not going to try to tell you that I do, but he got hit by a car and he died in Patrick's arms. And I mean, I've always liked Cantlay because I was rooting for him all day today. It didn't financially, didn't matter. I mean, but whatever, but I was rooting for him because I like the guy. I like the guy, and I like the way he takes what's in front of him and he figures it out. And DeChambeau, when DeChambeau got the 2-shot lead, I mean, Cantlay started off hot, then DeChambeau came back and did all this and all that, and then for a guy to make a 20-something footer on the last hole, knowing you have to make, and he absolutely poured it in. I mean, he poured it in. And then DeChambeau, has the, misread the putt again or pulled it, whatever might have happened. And then he just shoved it up his ass on the sixth playoff hole when DeChambeau hit it in there about 7 feet, and he's got 20 feet. And Roger Maltby says, I'll be honest with you guys, Cantley has the easier putt, even though it's 13 feet longer or 12 feet longer, and he just jammed it in. And I said to myself, this guy, and I change my mind every week in the show, who the best player is, who's this, who's that. This guy, I would take this guy right now in a fight. If I'm getting in a brawl right now, and there's a couple of guys, you're with me. I'm going into the bunker with this guy, 100%.
Yeah, and there was the comparison today of the way they played. Obviously, Bryson, this massive power, like you said, Cantley hits it pretty far. Let's check out his driving distance for the week. Now, it was a soft golf course, but weeks average 311.4. So, he hits it long. It's just today, when you're playing with someone that averaged 345 for the week, it looks shorter. But he's an all-around player. As you said, there is the story, and I forgot. Thanks for reminding me of the story of his life. But yeah, he's a guy you want to root for, and just a solid player. And I say he probably didn't play very like he wanted to part of the season, but yet you're telling me he won 3 times. So he's a solid player and is gonna, I think, win a lot.
K.H. Lee finished 31st.
Oh God. Yeah.
Okay, he comes to the last hole needing par, and hits his second shot well, I guess my wife's home because the dogs are going nuts, so sorry for that. He hits this second shot into the crowd and has to take this drop because because he hit it in the stands or whatever. Here is a PGA Tour pro that doesn't know that his ball actually is in a penalty area. He doesn't know he can ground his club. You can ground your club now in a hazard, in a penalty area. You can ground your club. Yep. And yet he didn't, and ended up hitting it fat, ended up making bogey. Not that he was going to get up and down. Who knows if he was going to get up and down or not because of this. But how does a fucking tour pro not know that you can ground your club in a penalty area? Dahlby, tell me this.
Yeah, and I don't know. That has been a rule that's been around for just a little bit of time. And he may have known and just decided, it's still – now, I don't play much. You play a lot more than I do. But when I walk into a penalty area, it is a little weird to feel like I can put the club down. To me, it's just a little weird. And I sometimes have kind of just barely put it in there. But yeah, you would think you would know exactly. I'm sure he knew what he needed to do, make par, which probably was the reason he hit it 30 yards to the right on his second shot. But sure. Yeah, and you look sometimes, the players for the most part know the rules, but they do rely so much on rules officials. And your dad would be great to talk about this because they're trying to make sure that they don't do anything wrong. But in this case, yeah, it's a situation where, given that he needed to chip it in to move on to the Tour Championship, probably the best chance he had was to put that club down and really feel the ground. But it was too bad. And stuff happens, though. Stuff happens, and it goes fast. Things like that, it just happens fast. I'm going to bring up the FedEx here.
Patrick Reed, number 30.
And had KH got up and down, Reed would have fell out, right? That was the
correct. 100%.
Yeah.
He would have been 31.
Yeah. And there were a couple
of KH Lee.
Yeah, because you're not a Captain America fan. And now my thing.
Does he make the Ryder Cup team? I'm going to ask you right now on the spot. Does Patrick Reed make the Ryder Cup?
I don't think so this year.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go a different direction. I thought we were going to have a heated argument.
No, I don't think so this year. And that's where, and I don't know what, I'm friends with Steve Stricker, but we're not tight. I don't know what he's thinking. We say hello and stuff. We've played junior golf together, but I would think if I was Strick, that might be one personality you want to leave off, given the talent that you have on the PGA Tour. There's, and I'm sure he's trying to, who can play with who and who do I want with this. And if Patrick Reed's in his mind somebody that he wants, he wants a ball striker and the course fits maybe playing right to left, then maybe he will take him. But I think I think he'll do a hell of a job making his picks and making sure that it's not just, whoever, that there's a strategy to those picks. It's not easy to be a Ryder Cup captain.
And kudos to Phil Mickelson. Came out this week and said, hey, I'll be a vice captain. I just want to be part of the team. And kudos to him because, normally he's the guy that I want to play. But kudos to him for doing that. But next week, when we do this podcast next week, this is probably one thing that we're going to go over is we're going to discuss, because I would like to discuss who you think should be on the team, who I think should be on the team, and compare it to who Stricker will pick, because his picks have to come out a week from Monday. Today's Sunday, in case anybody wants to know, we are taping this show on Monday. That I'd like to go through that and see how good we really are at following the game of golf and thinking. Because you're right, there's so much strategy that we're not a part of, because putting two people together, like Mike Morocco years ago put you and I together. Who knew that we'd still be together? But
right.
And so I want to go through that next week. So I'm excited about that. The Korn Ferry Tour second stage was this week. Adam Swenson, who's already got his card on the Korn Ferry Tour, wins, and next week's going to be really. I don't know if I'm more excited about watching the Korn Ferry Tour finals next week or the Tour Championship. I mean, probably me watching the Korn Ferry Tour, because I want to see guys get their job. And I mean, you look at a Scott Gutschewski, who I've known for forever since he was playing on the Korn Ferry Tour, Nike Tour, Hogan Tour, whatever you want to call it, back when I was out there. I mean, here's a guy now that's 9th on the points list, who I think, Dahlby, if I'm not wrong, he's guaranteed his card, right? I mean, anybody in the top 14?
You would think right about now, unless something weird happens, and Scott's actually 8th. He went from 7th to 8th. He was tied 18th this week, so he backed up a good week last week with a good week this week. He should be okay. He should be okay. I would say
people have to pass him.
Yeah, so he should be good. It's you would think 2/3 of the way, 25. So, 16 people, 15, 16. I think if you're Taylor Montgomery again, and we've talked about Taylor just because he was tied 18th. He was same as Scott this week, and he's 14th. I think he still needs to play good next week in Indiana just to make sure. But at 14th, you'd think he'd be okay. But the hard part is you do have these guys, good players that like I've talked about, that if they just have a really good week, JJ Spawn last week, I don't even know if he played this week. I don't think he did. He probably was just done. You have those guys. So you have Sean O'Hare, who missed the cut this week, but feels like he's playing good. Maybe he runs second next week, and all of a sudden you get a few of those guys, and it changes things a lot. So, but yeah, I think Scott's got to be fine. Gutschewski's got to be fine at 7. But I think you're right. I would be more interested next week. I'll have my eyes on both, but I think I'm more interested in the Korn Ferry finals and who gets their card, because those are life-changing events. For some of the guys in the Tour Championship, it changes their schedule a little bit, but I haven't looked at all 30 of the guys, but they're all pretty damn good players, so they don't have to worry about things as much as these guys playing next week for their life.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I'm going to watch 100% the Korn Ferry Tour. I mean, I'm going to pay attention to the Tour Championship for sure, because I've got to come back in our later segment of who you got, because I'm not doing very well in it. But just so people understand, when the Tour Championship starts next week, they do it like a seeding thing, and it's different. Like, so here's how it goes. So when they play next week in Atlanta at Eastlake, Patrick Cantley, before he tees off, will be 10 under par. And then Tony Finau will be 8 under par. Bryson will be 7, Rahm 6, Cam Smith, who was my pick this week, Meltdown Central, 5 under par. Then you have Thomas, English, Answer, Spieth, Burns at 4 under. And then like the guys that barely, like the guy that's 30th that starts the tournament at even par. So basically, he's 10 shots back of Patrick Cantley before he even hits a shot. And I don't think anybody, and this is just my opinion, and I could be totally wrong, I don't think anybody lower than 4 under par, and that's the group of Thomas, English, Answer, Spieth, and Burns, has a chance to win this thing. I don't think there's no way that somebody at even par is going to win the Tour Championship. My opinion only, though.
No, I think you're right. And we kind of debated last week about, should it be a cumulative thing over the 3 tournaments? But by, I guess, the PGA Tour, by giving Patrick Cantley 10 shots, what's Finau at? So Finau won last week. How many?
He starts at 8 under. He's Cantley's 10, Finau's 8, Bryson 7, Rahm 6, Smith 5, and then the rest.
And Finau was tied 15th, which you'd say, this week you'd say that's a good week. So he had a great week. He has a good week. He has a little extra chance to win the last game, which then makes you the winner of the FedEx Cup. So I still kind of I think my side of that argument last week, even I didn't even think about giving them extra shots. So I think that even furthers it. So you are rewarding guys for playing good the first 2 weeks. Have you been to Eastlake, Bernie?
I haven't been to Eastlake. Been to Atlanta, but never been to Eastlake.
So I was just reading a little bit about Eastlake. I've been there one time for the Tour Championship a few years ago with Sean, and it's just I think one of the reasons that you might watch the Tour Championship next week is to watch this golf course. It also hosts there's that college tournament in the fall that's at Eastlake, the Eastlake Cup. But it's just a historic golf course. Did you know that when it started in the early 1900s, it was actually the Atlanta Athletic Club? It was actually the Atlanta Athletic Club for a number of years. And then the neighborhood, it's just east of downtown Atlanta. The neighborhood got a little bit shady. So the members of the Atlanta Athletic Club actually moved the golf. They bought land in another area where Atlanta Athletic Club now is where they've played US Opens and PGAs. So there were just a group of people, and I think about 1968, that bought Eastlake trying to save it. Then there was another group of people, and they've tried to revitalize the neighborhood, and it's starting, and they've just got this great tribute to Bob Jones, because Eastlake is where he learned to play golf.
Now, I've been to Augusta. Have I ever told you this story? I've been to Augusta.
So there's the Bob Jones connection there. Go ahead.
So back in 1990, this is a fantastic story, and I'll make it quick. This is a beauty. So it's 90. I'm caddying for Eeks, and I'm rooming with a friend of mine, Cole Peterson, and he's caddying for a guy named Rich Beats, who played at ASU. And it's an off week, and we're in South Carolina, and I think we're at a bar or something, and I'm sure we were back then. And Rich, who's a tour player on the Hogan Tour, Nike Tour, whatever you want to call it, goes, "Let's go to Augusta." I said, "Okay, let's do it." He goes, "I'll get us in. I'm a tour member." So I said, "All right." So we're in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yep.
We get in the back of this Isuzu truck it fits 2, but there's 3 of us in there with nine bags and 14 cases of warm Budweiser, and we're off to Augusta, and we're I'm in the back, of course, and we're going down the freeway, highway, whatever, and one thing leads to another. Get off here, go off here, get off here. And we arrive at Augusta National. Pull the truck up. Guy at the gate says, how can I help you? Guy goes, I'm Rich Beats, tour member, Hogan Tour. Just going to bring my friends here to take a look at the place. And the guy goes, absolutely, no problem. Do me a favor, drive the car up about 15 or 20 feet and make an immediate U-turn and leave the property. So I have been to Augusta. I have been to Augusta National. I have been on the grounds in a car in Zuzu, but the guy told us immediately, yeah, go ahead and just drive right up here and make a quick U-turn. And that's my Augusta National story.
So you were on Washington Drive or Washington Road and turned in.
Yes.
Were you on? You were. Yeah. So you were. Well, you got to see Magnolia Lane.
15, 20 feet of it.
And then just a quick one back. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised the guy didn't have a gun, but yeah, I've been to it. So if people, you've been there because you've coached players, you've had players that have played there. I've got friends that have been, attend to the event, but yes, I have been there, but yeah, we did a quick, U-turn around the deal. It wasn't, and one of these days I'll tell you my Payne Stewart story, which maybe next week or the week after, which is my favorite story ever outside of caddying was the day I got to hang out with Payne, but maybe I'll do that in a few weeks. Schubert, where are you at? It's time for Who You Got. Who You Got, sponsored by our good friends at Burrito Express, because this Who You Got has become.
Oh, there he is.
So I will give a shout out to our good friend Chris Severson.
Okay.
It's time to pick, Dahlby. I'll give a shout out to our friend Chris
I can
Severson,
find out who's playing.
who every time, Shu, that you put this on the YouTube channel or Spotify, Chris Severson is the first person to watch our show. Wow. So he asked me the other day, how does the scoring work for Who You Got? And I said, okay, it's pretty simple. So there's only 3 of us. Yeah. So it's, if you win the week, you get 3 points. If you finish second, you get 2. If you finish third, you get 1. Mm-hmm. Now, if you win the tournament with the guy you pick, you get an extra 3 points.
Very nice.
So hypothetically, so this is how it went. So after week 1, you had 6, Dahlby had 2, and I had 1. Then we went to the week where
I picked 2 players who
didn't do very well.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. Okay. In our rules that I've created, you actually that week, instead of getting 1 point, you got -2.
Really?
Because you picked 2 players. If you pick a
Wow.
player that doesn't play, you get a -1. And that week, you got a -2 because you picked Oosthuizen and then Reed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
I mean, that's just, hey, listen, this is how it goes, okay?
It's fair. Okay.
So so far in this beautiful, I mean, people following us are making so much money. Right now, Dahlby leads with 7 points.
What? He
have
doesn't know
6.
he's picking. He picks 2 seconds
You have
before
6.
the segment.
Yeah, even if it's 2 seconds. And I have 5. Because last week, Dahlby had Justin Thomas, who finished, 20-something, 14 under. You had Harris English at 13 under, and my beautiful pick of Cam Smith had 11 under. So right now, as of we going forward, Dahlby has 7. You have 6. You still have your 6. It's the 6 that you got for picking Kevin Kisner. So you're still at that number, and I'm at 5. So with that, Dahlby, you were the first pick this week in Who You Got.
Okay. I got to make sure. I've got to pick somebody that's playing.
Have you named your room yet? Have you named your room?
No.
Okay, next week I get a big announcement on the show.
Yeah. Last week, I very much disagreed with John Rahm's thought about the Tour Championship. Correct? He wants it, the points, whatever. He goes in at number 4. I am going to take John Rahm, even though I disagreed with him last week, to win the Tour Championship.
He wasn't.
Were you going to take him?
Yeah, he was my pick, so he wasn't getting to you.
I was taking him too.
Yeah, he wasn't getting to you.
So let's just all take John Rahm.
So okay, you guys were talking about this earlier. I think it's a very good point that I
now,
can't.
Hey, Bernie, what's Rahm starting at? Minus what? So I'm spotting
6. He's 4 back. He's 4 back.
Okay, he's 4 back. Well, shit. All right.
See, that felt like the cutoff for me. Like, I didn't want to pick anybody lower than 4 off the lead. I didn't want to have that much.
I don't blame you.
So that means I have to pick either Cantley, who's the favorite, Tony Finau, who's coming off a win, and Bryson, who played well. I don't like any of these options. I really don't. You know what?
Who's 5?
Dahlby picked this guy last week, and it goes against everything I just said because he's starting at 4 under. But give me Justin Thomas.
I like it.
Give me Justin Thomas at East.
All right. So, Rom. Okay, let's see here. IQ of mine is probably about 80.
You're just going to take
a guy leading by.
Yeah, you're going to take the leader.
Yeah, you're going to take the leader. That's fine.
Yeah, I guess I'll just take Patrick Cantley. I mean, why not? I mean, you left it open. I was going to pick Rom because I was for sure thought one of you was going to take Cantley and the other one was going to take Bryson. So I was all set to take Rom, but both of you trumped me. So thanks for Cantley. I'll take him.
All right.
It's so hard. It's so hard to win 2 weeks in a row. So that's kind of my thoughts. And then with Finau's won twice on tour, so he might be a little too close for number 3, and I'll probably have to eat crow next week. But that was my thought on that. Bernie, I had one question for you. So,
yeah.
Bryson DeChambeau, going into this thing at number 3, you always said that you thought caddies should get a piece of the bonus money, correct?
I do agree.
How do you think Tim?
Hold on. If you've been there the entire year, and I know where you're going to go with this, and I'll let you finish in a second. But yeah, because here's the reason why I think that is because, first of all, it's at the end of the year, and I'll never forget a story, and you can go back to you in a second, that Michael Allen, who played on the Champions Tour and still does, but one year he had such a tremendous year that his accountant told him, listen, you're going to pay so much in taxes, you might as well drive over to your caddy's house, write him a check for $100,000 or $150,000 and have him write that, and take, the tax hit on that. So that's my point, because, these guys that win, the $10 million or whatever, I don't know if it should be 10%, 5%, whatever it might be, but it's a bonus at the end of the year for what they've accomplished and earned, because they're basically going to pay 50% of that back to the government anyway.
Yeah, you're right. And my question, that was just my first question. If you're Tim Tucker watching today and just watching this thing, do you think you could have just maybe caddied 2 more months? Or was it so bad that you just had to dump it? But if what are your thoughts on Tim Tucker?
Well, I mean, let's
think he regrets the move or not? Well,
let's just take caddying out of the equation. Let's just hold on for a second. What if you have a day job and you're making, let's just say, $200,000 and which is a good living. It's a really good living, and you're pissed off at your GM or your regional boss or whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, fuck this, I'm done, I'm out. And now you're on the street. Look, and you don't have another job. Okay, let's go back to that. You don't have another job, and now you're on the street, and you find something that you're like, oh, great, I'm going to do this for a living now, and I'm making $80,000 or $90,000 or $70,000. Yeah, you regret it. I mean, everybody makes, and Steve, we don't know exactly how this transpired. We don't know if Bryson fired him or if Tucker quit him or if Tucker was. I mean, you don't know that, but you have to put in perspective. I'm making, in Tucker's case, $1.5 million a year, 1.2, whatever it might be. I mean, that's a great living. You do that for 3 or 4 years, and if you're smart with your money and invest well, you could probably retire. So there's probably a point where, yeah, Tim Tucker is probably thinking, I should have stuck this out because, I don't know what Bryson made today. I haven't seen the official money, but let's just hypothetically say it's, $1.3 million and he's getting 10% of that because that's what they get nowadays. That's $130,000. That's your mortgage, and probably for a couple of years, unless you live in Bel Air in California.
Yeah. But you do bring up a point where maybe there was just so much that Bryson demanded, and he'd had this run, and maybe he was good. Maybe you're like you say, maybe he's good and he's going to just go do his next thing. But when I was watching Bryson today, I'm like, I wonder what Tim Tucker thinks about this.
Do you think Tim Tucker was watching?
I don't know. He might have been shuttling people around Bandon Dunes, because I guess that's what his side job. He's trying to develop a company that shuttles people.
Yeah. All right, Dahlby. Podcast 8, as my earplug comes out. Podcast 8 is in the books. Plans for next week? When I know you're leaving, for Napa in like 3 or 4 weeks?
Yes, I am. On the 13th, Monday the 13th. So I'll be around next week. We'll be around, and we'll make it work that week.
All right.
What I'm excited about is next week, seeing the new debut of your room, the addition to your room. So there's the tease for next show. Yeah,
I do have a big announcement for next, and I actually am playing in the Tuesday match this week. We didn't play this week because I was doing some other stuff, and it was 106 degrees, and I'm not playing in 106 degrees. I'm too old. I'm too fat. I'm too out of shape. I'm not doing that. All right, Dahlby, thanks. Schubert, thanks. Sean Crespin, who I haven't heard from in months. Is he still part of this program? We'll find out. But Dahlby, we'll talk next week, man. Have a good week.
All right, hit them straight, everybody.